The Legend of Vox Machina is the highly anticipated and Kickstarter-breaking animated series from the folks over at Critical Role. For those of you who are not familiar with Critical Role at this point, it is one of the most, if not the most popular D&D streaming game out there currently. It is oftentimes attributed as to being one of the main factors in a current renaissance that we're experiencing within the D&D community, as well as even bringing tons of new people to the hobby. This can also lead to a major downside to something known as the Matt Mercer effect, but honestly, that's a discussion for another video. The fact of the matter remains is that the series is here now, and at the time of recording, is about to wrap up this coming Friday. So the question is The Legend of Vox Machina worth the hype, and, well, is it honestly any good? The Legend of Vox Machina is honestly at its best when it tries to go for the moments of heart or heart-pounding action. The animation, music, and writing are firing on all cylinders, and it is absolutely glorious to behold. However, the series does tend to flounder when it is honestly going for more crude or adult humor jokes. While that does certainly exist at the table, it is something that seems to almost fall flat and just exist for the sake of existing within the series itself. There's no real setup and payoff. It just happens for the sake of happening. And as a result, I don't really laugh and find myself wondering, really, we're doing this again, or just get absolutely grossed out. However, that's not the only shortcomings of the series as a whole. Incredibly early on, The Legend of Vox Machina is plagued with pacing issues. The first two episodes are pretty much just set up in order for us to get to the famous Briarwood arc. These first two episodes are honestly going through lightning fast. We are suddenly at the climax where the party is taking on a monstrous foe. However, we haven't gotten enough time to know the party as a whole in this animated form in order to really feel for them or wonder if they're going to make it out alive, despite the fact that the episode count is very obvious that they're going to make it out alive. And the reason for this is because we typically in 2 episodes have about 40 minutes of screen time in order to get to know 7 characters, and as such, in those episodes, they tend to fall back on old fantasy tropes and even falling back on exposition dumps from characters just flat out saying who they are or even just doing things in musical moments.
I'm sorry, who the hell are you?
We're Vox Machina! We fuck shit up!
Well, these moments are definitely entertaining. From a writing standpoint, they really fall flat, and I actually do think the series and season as a whole would have benefited much more if they'd actually taken their time to introduce the characters before speeding into the Briarwood arc. Though it is understandable that they would want to get to the Briarwoods as quickly as possible because it is one of the most famous and one of the most beloved arcs in all of Campaign 1. But as said, this does suffer, and I actually think the Briarwood arc would have been much better served if the first 6 episodes was spent building up the characters. Now, there's probably a financial reason as to why this wasn't the case, and also this was probably the originally stated plan of the creators, but the fact of the matter remains is that because of this pacing issue at the very beginning, it's going to turn a lot of people off who are not already fans of Critical Role, which just cements the fact that this feels more like a product for the fans of Critical Role rather than everyone at large, and that is sincerely a major problem. However, when this season gets going, it gets going in a major way. The major highlights of Season 1 are adapting famous and beloved moments from the first campaign, and when it hits, while things are changed, they do an excellent job at bringing those to the screen.
You fool. Now your soul is forfeit.
But this is evidently a D&D cartoon because class abilities are on full display, from the Barbarian Rage to the Ranger's Primeval Awareness, and even the Bard's musical talents and prowess. All of that is very much on display, and it's honestly great to see, including magical items. But that's not all that you're going to encounter. There are a lot of Easter eggs for D&D fans as a whole. So not only does this come across as a love letter for the fans of Critical Role, but it also tends to come across as a love letter to this amazing hobby. There are a lot of things for people to find, specifically in the shop of Gilmore's Glorious Goods, which actually makes a lot of sense that they would put all the Easter eggs in that shop, considering it's supposed to be a magical shop to begin with. So while the show does suffer from major pacing issues, when the show lands, it lands extremely well. But unfortunately, the downside is that there's a lot of assumption that you already know who these characters are. So that being said, if you do come into this with fresh eyes, I completely understand if you come out of it saying it was just average or you personally didn't care for it. Season 1 very much comes under the assumption that you know who the characters are already. However, I do believe that there's enough good within Season 1 that the creators can look at what worked and what didn't and then adapt it for the next season. And who knows, that could be even better than the first. And usually they are. So here's hoping that this continues in the upward tick and then we get better and better quality and more people coming to this excellent animated series. So those are my thoughts on The Legend of Vox Machina. Despite the pacing issues and honestly, the adult humor just existing for the sake of it rather than building up to it, that's basically my biggest issue with the humor, is that it just seems to fall flat most of the time. It is honestly a solid animated series. It does a great job adapting Campaign 1 and condensing it and trimming a lot of the fat, while also staying true to the characters that we know and love. For outside viewers, it would honestly be a decent watch. A really enjoyable time, but probably not something that's going to stick in their mind or something that they're going to actively watch every single week. And I perfectly understand that. The pacing issues and the writing do not help it in that regard because they don't really give you enough time to get to know the characters before they thrust you into one of the characters' backstories. But that being said, I don't regret my personal time with it. I think it was a lot of fun. I may or may not return to it in the future, but I'm definitely looking forward to Season 2 and hoping that we continue the uptick in quality. Well everyone, that's the video for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed today's video, then please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing. All that helps the channel grow. And tell me your thoughts on The Legend of Vox Machina. Did you enjoy it? Did you not? Do you think my opinion sucks? Let me know down below. So until next time everybody, keep rolling those dice.